have to let out how much Downton freaking Abbey has been like an actual obsession, man, an absolute force. And then when she got the Francois Bob, then the Bob with the, oh boy, you couldn't tell her nothing. And that nape, layered nape that she had, you couldn't tell Miss Mary a damn thing.
Oh, I just got to the bit where Sybil dies. She was the nicest one in all the whole show.
Wagwan people thems. So this is, I don't even know how I'd even describe this really. Like, aside from I have to let it out. I have to let out how much Downton freaking Abbey has been like an actual obsession over the last, well, I'd say the last few weeks really. But particularly this last week, I cannot begin. I just cannot express. I don't think there are enough words in my lexicon to be able to say to you how much I've enjoyed this show, which I never would have thought would have remotely been of any interest to me whatsoever. Absolutely none. But the show, it's been incredible. Like, I can't begin to tell you how sad I am. Yeah, that I wasn't able. Like, I couldn't do the pacing of the show. I was like, right, I'm not reacting to it in the same way that I'm reacting to like other shows I'm reacting to on my channel and stuff or on Patreon. I was like, do you know what? I'm gonna just watch a little bit and I'll make a few comments here and there. So the first bit was, so I've just started watching Downton Abbey, which I thought I'd never watch, but I'm like, bless up the late Dame Maggie Smith. I was like, do you know what? Yeah, it's not just Harry Potter. It's not just McGonagall. Do you know what I mean? That we've lost there. Like, and I know a lot of people said that she's amazing and lots of other things. So I was like, okay, let me go and check it out. And I'm on episode 2, and I'm already hooked. I'm already hooked. I love Mr. Bates. To be fair, like Lady Grantham, she's wow. She's that. Loving this Crawley man. There's so many names. Like the guy who's getting used to like having a butler and stuff, which again must be so weird. Them not knowing what a weekend is. Like, can you imagine ever being in a position where you don't know what a weekend is? Like, what? Yeah, man, I'm all here for this. I'm all here. Oh, and just find out what kedgeree is as well. You can keep that. And you can see from that I literally was like, well, I don't know anything about this show, and give it up to Miss Dame Maggie Smith and well, the late Dame Maggie Smith. I thought, you know what, this is going to be a good, I guess, a really good section of her, like her career in her later years, which still gives, as much as it isn't Maggie Smith, there's a lot of Maggie Smith in Old Lady Grantham. You know what I mean? Violet Grantham, yeah. There's a lot of Maggie Smith in that. So I was like, okay, this will be a good thing to try and see if I can get into this. And all of the Downton Abbeys, the Bridgertons, I've never really been into them. But the only thing that made me think, do you know what, maybe there's a possibility that I could enjoy this, is that I very spontaneously, a couple of years ago, started watching The Crown. And I only watched the first season, maybe the second season as well, actually. Or part of the second season. But I was so enamored by just this period of time. And I think what's odd for me is, yeah, I'm not a monarchist at all. Like, I don't like, I don't hate the monarchy or anything like that. I don't hate anybody. But I also don't know if I believe that someone that's born into something, like in 2024 anyway, has the God-given right to just, you know, be all rich and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, what? There's a lot of money that you got there, and there's a lot of people in the country that don't have. So I don't quite know how I feel about the monarchy like that. And notwithstanding that, obviously there was a, you know, colonialism and how that all featured, particularly with people that look like me. Like, there's lots of images and stuff that draws up. But there is something about that period of time that is so different to like now, that it makes it just interesting to watch. Like, from then until now is weird, but even like living in that time, for people that were of a different class was weird to see how people are treated. And I watched a film recently called Origins by Ava DuVernay, and it really talked about like whether or not realistically things were racism, and everything was racism, and everything that sees like black v white is racism, or actually is it more to do with like a caste system, like class. And I think it's really apparent when you watch things like this that it isn't just a case of just racism. Like it's actually a case of how class and caste amongst people that look like you but actually don't fit in your same caste box, and how you're treated. I think the whole series was amazing for looking at that. Like the whole upstairs downstairs, you know, you've got this whole world of subservient people that are so happy to be in service to the people upstairs. And like you see like little tremors of almost realization throughout, where people are like, you know what, actually it's a bit ludicrous really that because you are an earl, like, and you're a lady or you're a marquis, that suddenly like I have no space to speak here. I have no space to exert myself, or to, you know, it's just completely not, you're not seen in that way. But yeah, so I think just in terms of the mechanics of trying to understand, like, why do I enjoy this show so much? And actually, there were a couple of moments where I was almost reminded about the era of time that it was, and there were two parts in particular. There was one part where the Rose, the cousin of Lady Mary, and the other Crawley sisters, when Rose was infatuated with that jazz singer, the black guy, and you know they were talking about getting married and stuff, and like just in terms of how he was going to be received. In fact, not even just when they were getting married, when he was going to be singing in the house at Downton, and it was like, oh my god, like that was a moment where I was like, oh my god, yeah, like, because when you're watching it and you're not even, like, you don't see many black people in there anyway, it's almost like you're just a fly on the wall of this aristocratic, noble, rich, lavish kind of lifestyle of these people in that time frame. And then you're kind of met with the reality when you see that it's like, oh, actually, yeah, like that was ongoing, wasn't it? Yeah, actually, good point. You know, and it's like, wow, it kind of takes you back. And then there's another part where, and again, I think this is in the movie, I think, where they've gone to the south of France to look at that villa that's been left to Old Lady Grantham, and they've got again a jazz band and a jazz singer, and it's just like, oh gosh, yeah, because you know, for our music and that kind of stuff, that's kind of, you know, what our worth was. Do you know what I mean? Or what our worth was seen as. So there was those two kind of sobering moments where I was like, oh my god, I'm watching this period drama where it's just another reminder of like how you know, uncouth the treatment of people like me were. So there were those two moments. But those two moments aside of those quite sobering things, like the mystery, the intrigue, the just being in a world like that and just seeing how those things transpired, like every season had something. But when you think about what, by the time that I got to the movies, 'cause I've literally watched it all. I've watched it all of season 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All the Christmas specials that they had, the film, Downton Abbey, A New Era. I've watched it all, and I just couldn't get enough. And I'm almost at the point where I'm like, well, Maggie Smith has now passed away, so I'm like, well, would they ever choose to make another one? But I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just go through some of the characters and just what I think of them, because I think some of the storylines have been so intriguing, like how they captured things like the war, you know, and how, you know, that kind of terror as the war started, what happened during the war, and how that impacted both the people that were in the trenches and also the people that were at home. And you know what happened when eventually Mary and Matthew finally, you know, the cousins united in love, and how that was beautiful and how short lived that was. you know, what happened to Sybil. Like there were so many different parts and so many different storylines that just I was just gripped to, and I never thought, if you'd have said to me on paper this whole show about earls and ladies and you know their lordships and stuff and how they you know host each all these different parties and luncheons and how they dress for dinner and change, like, and you've got this kitchen of people and the grounds people and the footmen. If you'd told me that that was a show that I'd be remotely interested in watching 6 seasons of, as well as 2 movies of, I would have literally told you to go and suck someone's toe. Like, what are you even talking about? But I was absolutely addicted. The costumes that they wore, particularly the females though, because I mean, like, you've seen one like tailored suit with tails, you've seen them all, but you know, watching all the different like fabrics and the different headdresses and the hats and the feathered this and the gemstone that and the tiara, like all of that, like it was just it's such a different time. It's such a different, obviously, but it's something that, like, I don't know, just kept me gripped the whole way. So, in terms of characters, because there are definitely some characters that like I have liked and then have disliked, and yeah, I think there are some characters that have had some redeeming qualities. So Lord Grantham. So let's start with him. So Lord Grantham, I think he was quite a benevolent leader, I would say. I think he's someone that I thought actually told the line quite well. Like if they're wanting us to believe there was a story between, oh sorry, there was a connection between him and his status and also the people that worked under him, but that there was a genuine caring connection for them. I think that was made quite clear. But they also made it so that it was still very much a employer and employee relationship. So as much as it was, you know, we care for you, you've been loyal to us, like, so we want to be loyal to you, there was still that element, and look, this might be just the state of the times as well, in that, you know, these weren't times where men were hugging men and all that kind of stuff. But I did kind of feel as though that as much as, like, he, like, for example, how much he cared for Carson or how much he cared for Bates, like, as much as he cared for them and really did like have a love for them, I still felt that he had them at an arm's length. Do you know what I mean? And that was the same for the family. I thought. I thought as a husband, I thought, well, in general, I thought that he could be quite pompous, which I guess comes from being a fed, rich, entitled, as he's been born into his riches. I guess there was going to be a level of pompousness that comes with that, but like, he was kind, and he, you know, he very much, like, when he needed to, like, raise his voice and stuff, he did do that, like with some of the things with, like, his daughters and stuff, when he didn't agree about Sybil and Tom getting together, like, he was very much against that, until she threatened to run away. You know, when he was against Cora running the hospital, having anything to do with the hospital and stuff, until Rose took him there so he could actually hear. How he was with Bates, when he thought that Bates was kind of leaving him in the lurch and stuff, and didn't realise that Bates was actually, he was not going of his own accord. Like, there were so many elements where he did lose his temper, but then he was always able to kind of like calm back down again. And how he was with, like, the tenants and the farmers and stuff, like, he really took his time to try and understand them. And, you know, when he gave one of them the money, I can't remember exactly which tenant it was, but he gave, oh, it was the tenant that ended up helping Lady Edith, and he gave him the money, and so he could basically pay off his debt, and hadn't told Mary or Tom about him. Like, little things like that he showed that he was kind. So I think, like, as like the main guy, I think he was, I think overall he was a good man. And, like, even the fact that he wanted to, like, go to war and not just have his title, he wanted to be in the trenches with everybody else. You know, some of it could have been self-serving just for his name, but I think it was because he wanted to do his part, which again I thought was quite cool. I thought his relationship with Cora was really interesting, and it was nice to see their relationship endure as well. You know, he still got jealous of certain things when there was that whole scene with I can't remember who the guy was, but the guy who ended up in Cora's bedchambers anyway, and he got all jealous about that, forgetting the fact that like he had his way with one of the maids before she had to leave. But their relationship continued to be really like just beautiful. It, almost like they were still in love with each other. So you know that was a really really beautiful relationship. I think Cora. I think I always thought the way she spoke was just so enduring. You know, Cora, Lady Cora, and well, we do know that things will get better, and I'm gonna look down here to you and know that's what we're going to do, George. We have to bring it over from America. That's what we're gonna have to do to bring that down. Yes, we will. Like, I don't know. It's just very. She always felt as though she was a very soft, again, kind-hearted person, and I think her character as mother, as presiding, you know, like the matriarch of that family. I mean, the ultimate matriarch of Lady Grantham, but I think in terms of her nuclear family, I think she had such a pivotal role in playing and being that calming American voice and stuff. I just think her character and how she portrayed Cora was beautiful. It was beautiful. I think she played that role perfectly, perfectly, and and it was nice to see that she was clever as well, and that she used her like initiative in certain scenarios and stuff to kind of best people, and that may have thought that she wasn't the brightest spark. So the whole thing with, like, for example, when Lady Baxter, sorry, came to work for her, and Tom had brought her back, and Tom basically brought her in. She didn't know that, like, obviously she was a criminal, or that she was a thief and stuff, and that she'd robbed. But the fact that Baxter had told her, and then she was able then to kind of confront Tom about it, I thought that was really, really good. I thought it was really sad how, she slipped and fell and lost her baby from the soap, which I thought was just so wicked of, I can't remember what her name was. Horrible she was. What a horrible character. There was nothing redeemable about her. Even after she did that whole thing with the soap and then she tried to be like Cora's friend and stuff. I was like, nah, there's nothing redeemable about you. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Soul as black as soot. So yeah, so I liked Cora. Absolutely. Lady Mary. Heavens. Someone called a third party. I don't suppose it's something that we'll be forgetting anytime soon. Oh, Edith. Oh, Mama. Oh, Papa. Oh, Granny. Like, I just, honestly, Lady Mary Crawley, I think is amazing. It took me a while to get her character, like, I'm not going to lie. Like, because again, I just thought you are just miserable and you're such a snob. But again, she was very astute. She had, like, a razor sharp wit, and just didn't suffer fools gladly. And I always felt as well that, like, it was like take me out a little bit. Like, I was always like, you've always got a suitor. You've always got someone coming to try and advance their position with you. Always, it's always you. I can't imagine that. Like, you've always got men, and they're always pretty good men as well. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, so I thought she was quite cool. I think her character, it was just good to watch her kind of sparring with people, and particularly, I mean, initially the Edith one I thought was a good sparring, but then also her and Matthew, when he initially didn't want to court her, then decided he did want to court her, then she wanted to court him, but then he didn't want to court her, and then there's this whole period of time. It's like, are they ever going to get together? Watching her kind of grow and obviously go through heartbreak of not having him initially, watching her have to nurse him back to health, when he came back from the war and he got that back injury, but then he'd been promised to someone else who then happened to die, and then they managed to get together, then her getting pregnant with his baby, then him dying. Like, I was absolutely, when that happened, I couldn't, my mouth couldn't open any wider. Like, are you joking? They've worked so hard to get to this point, and now you've killed him, and his baby's just been born. Mary's just oh, dude. Oh my gosh. Absolutely awful that was. Absolutely awful. Whole thing with her and Pamuk, and her having to carry that dead body across the hallway with Anna, because I was just like, how entitled are you, right, that you're gonna demand that your maid helps you with this thing? So basically, like, pulling him into like this whole deceit of covering up a murder just because you got the money and the status. I was like, I don't like you. I don't like you at all. You're surly. You're rude. But it was exactly that surliness and that like offhandish rudeness that also made her just a force to be reckoned with, man, an absolute force. And then when she got the Francois bob, then the bob with the, oh boy, you couldn't tell her nothing, and that nape, layered nape that she had, you couldn't tell Miss Mary a damn thing. Like, yeah, she was sick, man. Like, and I think her role continued to become a lot more. You could really see with her and her humanity. I did anyway. That whole thing about the guy that came up that was like doing the working on behalf of the government, he turned out to be some kind of lord or something, and they were constantly getting into it because he saw her as a snob. But then they had the whole thing with the pigs and her getting all mocked down with the pigs and stuff. Like, she could get down with the best of them, and then was the one that was basically running Downton. Felt that that whole humanity kind of grow and stuff. But then when she did that whole thing with Edith, it was like, well, actually, you're just not a nice person, actually, and you are a bully. And it's not very nice that you're constantly trying to drag your sister down. Like, that's not cool, man. So yeah, Mary was definitely someone that went on a bit of a trajectory with me. I love the relationship she had with Tom, like, and how that like relationship really blossomed, like really, really, really blossomed. I really, really enjoyed that. I actually liked her and Mr. Gillingham. I thought they made a really nice couple. So the fact that everyone was like, oh, actually, he wasn't really suiting to you. I was like, I don't really see what? Like, I don't know. I didn't really get that. I thought he was great. And actually, her acting, I think, is also really good. Like, you could be forgiven for thinking she's quite monosyllabic, but there is range in how in those facial expressions and stuff. Like, it's weird 'cause I can't imagine anyone else playing those roles now, like at all. But I just think she was so good at playing Lady Mary Crawley. I just thought she was brilliant. Like, and again, always so poised, so elegant. She looked amazing in her wedding dress, and the veil and the lilies and stuff. And actually, both times she got married, I thought she looked great. I did think like the second time she got married, I thought this is absolutely ridiculous that Edith doesn't get her marriage, and yet you get a second one. Are you joking? Like, I was not happy about that. Loved the fact when she was reading doing the thing for the cinema, and she's doing the voice for it and stuff. And again, she did that so well. I think the biggest thing for me, or two big things, is her relationship with Lady Grantham, and her reconciliation with Edith. I thought was also really good as well. And I guess their continued friendship thereafter. So yeah, Lady Mary Crawley, I thought and think is a fantastic actress, and I think like her role also in the movies as well was really, really good. Edith, I think she grew on me because I found her to be quite whiny initially. And I guess, someone that is in middle child syndrome probably does have that a bit where she doesn't really stand out for anything. I've seen it on boards that her older sister and her younger sister were more desirable, so she had to be a bit of a drama queen in order to get attention. But I think how her and Mary were was really vile to each other. But when she actually sent that letter to the Turkish embassy, I did think you are a. Well, I won't say what I said at the time, but yeah, it rhymed with hunt. My thing was like, I can't believe that someone would actually do that to their sister. I was just like, I can't, like, no matter what they've done, to shut them in like that, knowing full well that the scandal could destroy your family. I was like, why would you ever do that? I also understand that her family never really seemed to back her, not until like later on in her like life. So when she wanted to do the whole, I'm gonna be a journalist thing, and like Lord Grantham rubbish that. When she wanted to kind of do the whole I'm gonna drive a car thing, they kind of rubbish that a little bit as well. But doing those things basically gave her that independence away from just being in Downton. And I did feel for her when she then decided to marry that old dude. I can't remember his name, but it was like he's so old, like, and she was like, it doesn't matter, but everyone else could see that it does matter, and I'm so glad that he did. Well, not so glad, because there are some relationships where there's a massive age difference, but I'm so glad that like she was able to kind of bounce back from being jilted at the altar, which must have been embarrassing in itself. Then eventually, well, being quite upset about that for a long time. Then eventually finding another kind of interest and stuff, only for him to then disappear, and not just to disappear, to leave her pregnant and then eventually be murdered. It's just like, wow, she's not destined for any kind of happiness at all. And then the whole thing about Marigold and keeping that a secret, and which I think a lot of people did in that time because of the shame of having, you know, babies out of wedlock and stuff. I think how they handled that, I think, if I'm honest, I think she like destroyed a family. If, like, you know, that man, that farmer, the Drews, they were happy. He was happy to help her and keep her secret, bearing in mind that she'd already taken Marigold from a family in Norway. Like, so taking Marigold from there, put her in a family with the Drews, then couldn't stay away, then kind of gaslit the mum a little bit to be like, you know, this is me taking her for the best. And it's like, well, if this was the case, you could have done all this without like them getting attached to her. Do you know what I mean? So I didn't really rate that at all, if I'm honest. But you know, I've never been in that situation, so who's to say? But it was interesting to see how Lady Rosamond and also Lady Grantham did actually rally around her to be like, you know, it might have been ideal, but they, you know, Rosamond was actually going to go with her to one of the clinics to not keep the baby, which again was quite a big thing, I think, to do. I think Edith, she grew on me. She definitely grew on me. I think by the end, I was really impressed by her conviction to be her own kind of person. It's a little bit like, you know how you've got like Beyonce and Solange. Like, so you got Beyonce, who I would say isn't like in nature like Lady Crawley, but as the oldest, boldest, like, you know, there's so much more expectation that's on her. Whereas you got Edith, who I think is more like Solange, who like carved her own path and stuff, didn't necessarily follow in Lady Mary's. I mean, that's kind of where the analogy stops really, because Beyonce and Solange are close. Mary and Edith weren't for a long time, but she carved out her own career. Got, you know, the whole magazine element was so big. When she was arguing with her editor and the guy was an absolute buffoon, and it's just like, mate, you don't need to be putting up with this from anybody. Like, sack him. So I'm glad that she told him about his P's and his Q's. When she brought Marigold home and as her ward and hadn't told anybody, and then Lord Grantham figured it out, told her that you know, that he knows, and that, and she was like, oh, you know, Papa, I hope you forgive me. And he was like, you know, I'm sure there's far more for you to forgive me for. Then for her to meet that guy, Lord Hexam, a whole quandary about whether or not she tells him about Marigold and not wanting to start a marriage in a lie, for only Mary to then go and drop her in it intentionally, lose him, get him back, become a Marchioness because he ends up being a Marquis because of his inheritance. You know, it all ends really well for Edith, and you're just happy for her, man, because she's had so much sadness in the series, so much being overlooked unless it was for misery. So yeah, that was really cool to see that for her as well. Sybil, I've mentioned her already, but you know, I think when Sybil died, well, let me show you.
Oh, I just got to the bit where Sybil dies. She was the nicest one in the whole show. And I knew it was gonna happen as well. I was just like, there's no point getting all happy because that's just a shame, man.
It's quite clear, yeah, that like Sybil had my heart a little bit because she was just so kind. When I said that she carved her own way, I mean, like, probably even quicker and earlier than Edith did, really. She was the one that kind of was a a trailblazer for not just a different type of fashion when she came in with those kind of trousers, and everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, I thought it was a man. I thought it was a man." And it's like, "Nah, man. Like, I'm just kicking things off and making things a bit different because not everything has to be ball gowns and whatnot." And you know, she was the first person to help. Is it Ygritte from Game of Thrones? You know nothing, Jon Snow. You know nothing, Jon Snow. You're the first person to help her to get her a job. Like post the, send her any of the job applications that have come through. Help her to kind of fill in her application. Lend her clothes. And keep up the correspondence with her. Like she did that out of the goodness of her heart. Close to Tom. But not close enough for anything to happen. Very, very kind soul to everyone. And I kind of felt that she was the heartbeat of the show for a long time. Just the sweetness of the show. So then when she eventually did say yes to Tom, and they eventually ran off and ran away together, it was like, I rate her. This is obviously before, after as well, that she had become a nurse because she wanted to train to be a nurse. She wanted to be useful and do something in the war and stuff. And then became so useful that Downton ended up being a place where people would come to either convalesce, I think it was, or to at least another place of, well, there's lots of injuries and stuff there actually, so it's probably more than that. But either way, she was really instrumental in kind of changing the way in which the people at Downton thought about stuff. And she did it all through kindness. All through kindness. Nothing was ever done with malice. All through kindness. And then when she eventually got pregnant with Tom's baby, coming back to Downton, part of me had a feeling, right, when they were talking about her being dazed and being confused and being the condition was that she had preeclampsia, and whether or not she was going to survive. I kind of had a feeling that she wasn't going to. But I still was so shocked when it happened. Like I literally was just like, "Are you joking?" And like you saw in that reaction, like I couldn't hold the tears back. I couldn't. I was so upset. I was so sad. I was like, "You are literally the nicest person in the whole show, the nicest person in the whole show, and they've gotten rid of you. Are you joking?" And I just felt bad for Tom and the fact that she'd had the baby, and then the whole thing with Cora and. What's his name? He called him Lord Grantham. I can't remember his first name. But you know, her not wanting to talk to him because she completely blamed him for listening to her Harley Street doctor, listening to his Harley Street doctor, and not listening to Doctor Collins. Is it? I think that would have broken them up. I think had they not been able to do the studies to show that actually her chance of survival was quite low anyway. I think, yeah, that could have been the end of them, because I don't think she would have been able to forgive him for choosing snobbery over what she felt she knew better. I might leave it there now, actually, because I'm at 33 minutes and I'm conscious I could literally speak about these characters for hours. So I'm going to do this in parts. So that's what my thoughts were for the initial Lord Grantham, Cora, Lady Grantham, Lady Mary, Lady Edith, and Lady Sybil. And I think what I'll do is I'll come back and I will talk about some of the rest of it. But as you can clearly see from this one part, yeah, I absolutely just love the show. I just can't. There's nothing bad. There's nothing bad I can think to say about the show at all. I really, really, really enjoyed it. So yeah, looking forward to part 2. But for now, thank you for watching with me. If you did enjoy this, then please do drop me a like and subscribe. That'd be amazing. Thank you so much. And I'd love to know what your thoughts were of just those 4 characters for now. Sorry, those 5 characters. And whether or not you think I am in the ballpark for what my thoughts were, or do you think I'm completely off for what I'm saying about them. So yeah, let me know in the comments below. If you do want access to my reactions before they come to YouTube, then please do head over to my Patreon, and that's where they'll go to first. And it's a great way to help support the channel as well. So I'd be very, 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 very grateful. For now, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you on the next one.